Kyle Larson had Bristol locked down. He led 284 laps, swept both stages, and looked like the only driver who could win. Every restart, every run, every lap pointed to one result. But in the final moments, everything flipped. A late caution reset the race. A bold call changed the order, and Larson went from certain winner to third place. This is how Kyle Larson dominated Bristol and still lost. From the drop of the green flag, Larson's car was on another level. He moved to the front early and controlled the pace with ease. Clean air at Bristol Motor Speedway is everything, and Larson had it almost the entire race. He built gaps that others could not close. Even when traffic came into play, he handled it better than anyone else on track. Stage 1 ended with Larson in full control. No pressure, no mistakes, no challenge. That kind of stage win shows a perfect setup. The car rotated clean through the corners, held grip on exit, and stayed stable in traffic. It was the kind of performance that usually leads straight to victory lane. Stage 2 followed the same pattern. Larson stayed out front and managed the race like a veteran who knew no one could touch him. He crossed the 200-lap mark led, then kept going. That number matters. When a driver leads that much at Bristol, the race is usually over long before the checkered flag. Rehook this moment. Larson had already won both stages and led the majority of the race. Everything was pointing to one outcome. Behind him, Ryan Blaney stayed patient. He did not push too hard early. He kept his car clean and stayed inside the top group. That decision mattered later. While others fell off or made mistakes, Blaney stayed in position, waiting for the race to come back to him. Gibbs followed a similar path. He was not the fastest car early, but he stayed in the fight. No damage, no major errors, no risky moves. He kept himself close enough to take advantage if something changed. As the laps counted down, Larson's control did not fade. He passed slower cars without losing time. He kept his rhythm even in heavy traffic. That is rare at Bristol. Most leaders get trapped behind slower cars at some point. Larson did not. He stayed smooth and kept building his lead. Rehook again. Larson had the race under control, but one moment was about to change everything. A late caution came out. This is where races at Bristol flip. Strategy becomes more important than speed. Every crew chief has seconds to decide. Pit for fresh tires or stay out for track position. There is no safe choice. One call wins the race, and one call loses it. Larson and Blaney were in control when the caution came out. Both had strong cars. Both had a clear path to the win. But the caution reset the field and opened the door for a different outcome. Some drivers chose to pit, others stayed out. Gibbs made the bold call. He stayed out and took the lead for the restart. That decision put him in the best position when the race went into overtime. Rehook this again. Larson led 284 laps, but now he was not leading when it mattered most. The race restarted in overtime. That means everything comes down to a few laps. No long runs, no time to recover. One restart decides the winner. Gibbs launched clean from the front. Blaney stayed right on his bumper. Larson tried to push forward, but he no longer had clean air. At Bristol, that is the difference between control and struggle. Once you lose the lead, it becomes much harder to get it back. Blaney made a strong move and closed in on Gibbs. They ran side by side through tight corners. That is where races are decided at Bristol. There is no space, no room for error. One small slip can cost everything. Larson was right behind them, waiting for a mistake. He needed one opening, one gap, one missed line, but it never came. Gibbs held his line under pressure. Blaney pushed him all the way to the finish. The gap at the line was just 0.055 seconds. That is inches at full speed. Gibbs crossed first. Blaney finished second. Larson came home third. Rehook the title again. Larson dominated Bristol and still lost. This is where the race becomes more than just a result. Larson did everything right for most of the night. He had the fastest car. He led the most laps. He executed clean runs. But NASCAR races are not only about speed. Timing and strategy decide the end. Blaney's race shows a different approach. He did not dominate early, but he stayed in position. When the race reset, he was ready to fight for the win. He nearly took it. Gibbs showed something even more important. He trusted the strategy call and handled the pressure when it mattered most. Holding off Blaney in overtime at Bristol is not easy. doing it by a margin that small shows control and confidence. Rehook again. Larson had the race. Gibbs took the moment. There is also a bigger picture here. Tyler Reddick finished 4th and stayed at the top of the point standings. He continues to build consistency, which matters over a full season. Larson, despite his speed, sits lower in the standings than his performance suggests. That gap between speed and results is something he needs to fix. For Hendrick Motorsports, this race is both a positive and a warning. The speed is there, the cars are strong, but races like this show how quickly things can change at the end. One caution, one call, one restart can erase hundreds of laps of control. The cliffhanger here: if the same situation happens again, will they make a different call? That question matters because this was not a mistake by Kyle Larson. It was a situation created by timing and strategy. But the restart still gave him a chance. At Bristol Motor Speedway, if you are not leading on the final restart, the odds are against you. Ryan Blaney almost changed the ending as well. If the race had one more lap, the result could be different. That is how close it was. Inches decided the winner. Cliffhanger: one more lap could have changed everything. But the result is locked. Ty Gibbs earned his first Cup win. Blaney came within inches. Larson led 284 laps and finished 3rd. Rehook the title one last time. This is how Kyle Larson dominated Bristol and still lost. Now the focus moves forward. Larson has proven he has winning speed. But closing races like this is the next step. Other teams now know that if they stay close, they can beat him late with the right call. That changes how races will be fought in the coming weeks. Drivers will focus on staying in position. Crew chiefs will prepare for late race decisions, and every restart will carry more weight. Here is the part most people miss. Races like this do not just hurt in the moment. They stay with a team. The next time a late caution comes out, every call will be compared to this one. Every second of hesitation matters. That pressure builds over time. Larson will face this again. Another late restart. Another fight for track position. And when that moment comes, everyone will be watching to see if the outcome changes. That is where great drivers separate themselves. Not just by speed, but by how they respond after a loss like this. Cliffhanger again. The next restart might decide more than just one race. Final thought: speed gives you control, but strategy decides the winner. Larson had the speed. Gibbs made the call. And at Bristol, the final moment decides everything.